Warrant's Cherry Pie album was released September 11th, 1990, 35 years ago today. And Patrick is here because he and I are going to look back on a seminal moment in hair metal history right after this.
The hair metal guru from Warrant to crew. The hair metal guru. Never forget Charlie too.
Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. And holy shit, I was actually shocked when Patrick texted me and he's like, hey man, today's the 35th anniversary of the Cherry Pie release. I'm like, you know what? We should get together and talk about this album. With that, Patrick, welcome back to the show.
Awesome to talk about this record. It's such a monumental record and so much to talk about.
What is your memory of first hearing about this and maybe picking it up and discovering it?
I was late to the game. I'll
Yeah.
be honest with you. I was late to the game with this because I was a big fan of music, but Warrant had kind of escaped me. I mean, I knew Cherry Pie.
Yeah.
Because you'd hear it at sports games when you were a kid and things like that, but I didn't think anything of it. And then when I really got into music, and I got it was probably 92, so a good year. Well, not really even a year, but a few months into it. And this record, I was astounded with it. At first I thought it was real cutesy with the Cherry Pie thing, but as we get into it, there's so much there, but that's how I got it. I was a little late to the game with it. All the singles from it had pretty much come out by that point, but I hate being late to the game.
Yeah. I got it the day of release, and I was a huge fan of the debut album. Who wasn't if you were a hair metal fan? But I remember reading in Metal Edge, all the interviews, Metal Edge, Hit Parader, Circus, all of that, all of the hype leading up to this. And you know how they would always do like interview a member of the band and then do a song by song breakdown. Oh, here's what that song is about. Here's what this song is about. Well, I remember reading Janie Lane talking about I Saw Red. And he was like, this is the best song I've ever written. And he talked about what it was about. And I know I've mentioned this before, and some people are like, quit being a big pussy, but whatever. When I was a junior in high school, this girl broke my heart. And, like you think you're with the one, and, later on you learn it's this infatuation, but you think you're with the one, and boom, it ends, and you never saw it coming. Well, he's talking about the end of this relationship, and I'm like, fuck, man. I'm like, my heart was still broken. I'm like, I need to hear that song. So I'm in Fargo, North Dakota. Bismarck, North Dakota is about 3 hours away. But me and one of my best friends in high school, his name was David Hansen. And I can't remember what we were doing in Bismarck, but I was like, man, we got to go to the record store because I need to pick up this album. And so we go and we pop it in and I'm like, yeah, okay. And I'd heard Cherry Pie, and then comes Uncle Tom's Cabin. And I'm like, I hadn't heard it yet, obviously then. But I get to I Saw Red and I'm like, holy shit. And I actually start tearing up because I was just like, wow, he knows exactly what I went through.
Right.
We listened to that thing. We were both so massive fans. We listened to that thing nonstop. And, I loved that album. In later years, when the negativity starts happening to that song, Cherry Pie, Janie Lane starts, like the negative. I always talk about the time where he said I could shoot myself in the fucking head for writing that song. It became hard as people who loved Janie Lane. It almost became hard to listen to that song after he said that. So anyway, I have many fond memories of that album. I have, some kind of sad memories of that album, but that's what I remember about getting it.
It was such a massive leap, Anthony, in songwriting. You look back for a second on that first record, Dirty Rotten, and you got songs like Cold Sweat, Riding High,
Yeah.
In the Sticks.
Yeah.
the potential was there.
Yeah.
And then I remember listening to Cherry Pie the first time and almost thinking this was a completely different band
Yeah.
because it was such a dramatic leap in songwriting, in quality. Same producer, but just everybody learned their instruments a little more.
Yep.
Everybody was I mean, Janie was Bo Hill has come out and said, I never really had to coach along Janie Lane. He just came in and did his thing, and it was one take Janie. He did
Yep.
great, and it was always more time spent with the guitar players and the drummer and whatnot. But it was such a massive leap, and as you go through those songs, and maybe we should talk about that, is each song just has moments in it, regardless of it if it's a song I really liked or not. There's a moment in each song that I'm like, man, that's fucking good.
Yeah. I thought the leap lyrically was astounding. Sure, you still had you had Cherry Pie, you had Sure Feels Good to Me. But like on the first album, I look at Sometimes She Cries and you go, wow, there's some lyrical depth. Mercy Don't Think She's Pretty No More. You're like, wow, that's kind of,
It's not
honest.
something you hear every day. Yeah.
Not something you hear every day. But like In the Sticks, Riding High, those are good songs. But when you get to album number 2 and you get to Uncle Tom's Cabin, I Saw Red, Bed of Roses, Blind
Great.
Faith, Song and Dance Man, Mr. Rainmaker. Some of those songs lyrically, Warrant got shit for being lumped into all the not serious, the hair metal, the party band. Man, they had that, but they had way more lyrical depth, Janie Lane did, than most bands of that scene.
And then you talk about the song that didn't make the record, Thin Disguise.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I
Yeah.
still to this day go, well, I'd rather have that than Love in Stereo. Love or Train Train.
Yes.
Like I love Train Train, but not
Yeah.
as much as I love Thin Disguise. And Thin Disguise was so good. It's not just that it was a good song. That could have been a hit single. It was that good.
Yes, it's still, if I ever interviewed, I've always known this, if I ever interviewed somebody from Warrant, I'd be like, why did you not put Thin Disguise on that album? I think it's a hit. Holy
Man.
shit. Um, and then, yeah, I was never, Train was okay, but I'm like, why put a cover on when you can put one of your own songs? Train should have been the B side of. I think Thin Disguise was the B side for Cherry Pie.
It was, yeah.
That could have been Train.
Yeah.
Some throwaway track that wasn't needed. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And you look at this album sold over 2 million copies. I think it's close to 2.5. And I'm still to this day, and I said it in our 10 things I think about Warrant. Check that video out. It was great. But I said it then. I'm still astounded. It's an unsolved mystery. Call Robert Stack and get the team on it. Why did they not sell another million with Blind Faith? I mean, my God, Blind Faith is such a massive hit. It should have been. It's in my opinion, and I know you have a heartfelt sentiment to I Saw Red, but to me, Blind Faith has probably his best lyrics on the record.
it's shocking, and it came out as the summer of 91. It was getting into, it was like the average fan didn't know it, but the music industry seemed to know that hair metal is on its way out. I just interviewed Mark Gus Scott, and this might be off topic, but he's like, when of Trickster, when their ballad Surrender was riding, it was number one on Dial MTV. And he's like,
Yeah, I remember.
suddenly they just axed Dial MTV. It was done. It was almost like the industry was saying, well, if we keep letting the fans choose, they're going to keep this hair metal shit on top. So we'll get rid of all of it, and then we can make the safe transition to this new style of music that we're going to bring in, and we're going to get rid of all this other. I'm not saying I'm a big conspiracy theorist, but when you see that interview, you'll kind of see me and Gus talk about the conspiracy, like suddenly. So yes, Blind Faith should have been a massive, massive hit.
I agree. It's shocking to me because and imagine, does it sell more than I Saw Red if you swap them? If I
Yeah,
had that time machine, I'd love to see what the fuck would have happened because
yeah.
boy, they played an amazing version of it on Arsenio.
Oh my
I would have
God.
thought that would have pushed it over the edge because Arsenio was so massive, but that is one of the most emotional and showed the true musicianship in that band when they played that live.
Check out Blind Faith on Arsenio Hall. It is unbelievable. Where are you at with the song Cherry Pie?
Great question, Anthony. As somebody who's so invested in that band, all eras except for Robert Mason, and that's not a knock at him, but with Cherry Pie, I'd be lying if I said I didn't like it when I was young.
Totally.
And it's not that I've heard it too much. I just think that Janie Lane was so much more than that. That to sit there and go, "Oh man, Cherry Pie" is kind of like saying it's like listening to the worst of his abilities. Like or the lesser of, not the worst,
Yeah.
but the lesser of his abilities. And I know that sounds kind of snobbish, but it's not my favorite song. It's a catchy one, and it's one that you hear it at a kid's soccer game or something, and you're like, okay, yeah, this fits. Kids love it.
I was a month when this came out, I was a month away from turning 18. I was 17 years old. So I loved Cherry Pie. We loved that kind of sex, tongue-in-cheek, sexual innuendo stuff. That's how I talked with my buddies. We thought it was great. Um, you get older and you're like, it hasn't aged well. You get older and you hear the disdain that Janie Lane had for it, and it was really hard to listen to. I have talked about this before. The day after Janie Lane died, Warrant played Grand Forks, North Dakota, which is an hour from me. And I went to that show, and I left when I didn't leave the concert hall, but I just went and walked around when they played Cherry Pie. It was hard for me to listen to that, knowing that, Janie Lane had just died alone in a hotel room. And I've said this before, it's not like I think if they hadn't released Cherry Pie, that suddenly he wouldn't have died an alcoholic. He was going to be an alcoholic regardless. But you just wonder if they had not released that song, if the album had been titled Uncle Tom's Cabin, which was the original title of the album, if that would have changed anything for the course of Warrant's history. Would they have been known as, hey, more of a serious band? Uncle Tom's Cabin, I Saw Red. But they became known as the Cherry Pie Band, and they kind of became the ultimate whipping boy of the hair metal movement, and that always broke my heart.
Well, excellent marketing by Columbia
Yeah.
because I remember in the Quality You Can Taste home video, they've got those black suede cherry pie jackets on. I would have killed for one of those.
Yeah.
But that's a piece of fucking history. But that it's an iconic image.
Yeah.
And I'll give them that, like it's an iconic image. If you put it up on the screen, anybody from our generation, Anthony, knows exactly what it is
Yep.
and the song and all of those things. But I agree with you. It really makes you wonder what is the trajectory for that record if it's not on the record? What if Thin Disguise is on that record and not Cherry Pie?
Does it still go? I think maybe it goes platinum.
Oh, I'm sure it would have.
You know,
It still
like like Uncle Tom's Cabin, I think would have been a massive first single. You got the great ballads. You could have had fucking like you said, Thin Disguise could have been a single. And maybe the backlash of the early 90s wouldn't have been as bad had they not released that song. But I remember talking to Stevie Rochelle on Facebook. I said something about like what would have happened if if that's, and he was like, fuck no, you can't take that song off that album. That song is iconic. That album blew up because, so I get a lot of people are going to have that opinion. I just will always wonder what could have been.
Well, and the controversy of the song, the video, the controversy of the video, the sexism, all of those things. It was all negative press, but any press was good press. And they had the Ode to Tipper Gore on
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah, fucked her right there.
yeah. I fucking love that record. I still listen to it occasionally. When I do, I don't really listen to Cherry Pie. I usually go right to song two.
Yep.
And but there's some great moments on that record that never get talked about. I mean, we talk about Mr. Rainbaker. It's a universal favorite among fans.
Yep.
To me, that has an iconic riff to it. That opening
Yes.
muted guitar is just
Yep.
fucking insanely good.
Yep.
Best lyrics on the album are that, in my opinion, and are Mr. Rainmaker and Blind Faith and I Saw Red. And I mean, Song and Dance Man is a beautiful song. I mean, it
I,
just it
I think Mr.
the
Rainmaker, Song and Dance Man are probably the two, and maybe even, I love Bed of Roses.
it's a story. Yeah.
Or maybe my three picks for the most underrated songs. Because we do talk about Uncle Tom's Cabin and I Saw Red. I still think that in the grand scheme of things, that Uncle Tom's Cabin is an underrated song. I think it should be talked about as one of the greatest songs of that era. So completely different than what anybody was doing at that time.
Oh, absolutely. And even 30 years later, when Janie was in Great White, there's a great video on YouTube of when he was fronting Great White for a tour. And he would get his little set in the middle of it where he'd come out with an acoustic and he played three or four Warrant songs. And he would play the ballads and all the people would go crazy and you'd hear the whole crowd singing it. But then he'd break right into the beginning of Uncle Tom's. And
Yeah.
oh my God, it's an amazing story. Funny, Joey Allen came out recently in an interview and was saying that, it's not like there was this huge story behind Uncle Tom's Cabin that he was telling. He said Janie basically had a TV guide
Yeah.
and saw something for Uncle Tom's Cabin, and he went, "Wow, that sounds like I could write something about that." And he put it together in a night, and it's just like, holy, the talent to do that.
Yeah.
It's a magical album. There's a reason it's one of the most iconic albums of the hair metal genre.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's one of the most iconic records of hard rock.
Yes.
Let's take the hair metal out of it and add it in with all kinds of things. Bryan Adams, the outfield, all these iconic things. And the Cherry Pie record belongs right in that conversation.
Totally. I think if you like legitimately, if you have not listened to this album in a long time, I think if you go back and you will be surprised at how deep it is. We were talking about some of the forgotten tracks. This whole thing is a stellar record. I don't know if there's a guy named Chuck Klosterman, and I think I was
Yes.
just kind of fucking up there. He's written a bunch of books. He's from North Dakota. And
Oh, is he?
yes, and he talked about like being in college in Grand Forks, and he said I used to write reviews for the college newspaper. And when Warrant released Cherry Pie, he's talking about this in his book Fargo Rock City. He said when Warrant released Cherry Pie, I called it stellar. And then he says, I was not allowed to review another album for 3 years. People give
Boy.
this band and this album so much shit, but I think that's because too many people have gotten laser focused on the song Cherry Pie and they forget how much great shit is rippled throughout this fucking thing. Go back and listen to the whole thing because I think you'll be surprised at how awesome it truly is.
I believe when they remastered it and put it out again in 2009, was it? Maybe 2010, and it came out and it had What was
Extra
the? It had the power and
Game of
had some
War,
other
Game of War,
Game of
and Power,
War.
and the
Yeah,
Power.
yeah, both incredible songs. It sucks that they didn't do a more professional recording of Game of War because it's fantastic. But I love the power. That song is just catchy as fuck. But I always hoped that they would remaster it and put it out with a second disc that maybe would have the audio version of the Blood, Sweat, and Beers pay-per-view. I
Yep.
mean, my God, that's such a great concert from this, and it to playing, into a sold out crowd at the height of their fame. There's no, I mean, I love the Warrant 86 to 96 live album, but man, I would love to have the audio of that
Something
show.
from the glory years.
Yeah, exactly. You
Totally.
know they have it. Yeah.
Um, the Power was on the soundtrack along with We Will Rock You to a movie called Gladiator, not the one that everybody knows. It was like Brian Dennehy and Cuba Gooding Jr. It's a fight movie. I actually love that movie. I don't know if you've seen it.
I saw it in the theater. Yeah.
And if you remember on that Warrant home video where he's playing these extra songs,
Oh,
pop
yeah.
music, let's not fight tonight. We've talked about Warrant is like putting together a box set, and they're like, oh, we've used up all the tracks. No, there are a million fucking Warrant or Janie Lane songs that were written during those times. I would love to see something come out, maybe even a fucking, why they aren't doing some sort of cherry pie 35th reunion. This would be a good time to do it. Put those extra tracks on there, whatever, do a box set, but there's a lot of extra shit laying around from that
Put the
time.
home videos out on DVD.
Yes.
I
Yes.
have bootleg versions that I bought off eBay back in the day
Yes.
that are perfect quality. But I mean, it's like put those out. Same thing
Yes.
that a lot of bands should do that, but Warrant especially put out the Astoria 1992 concert that they
Yes.
did for MTV Headbangers Ball Europe. Like, holy shit, there's so much good stuff they could put out.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully, I mean, because they're talking about putting together this package. Hopefully, they're taking their time and they're putting together something epic because there is epic shit out there available.
Oh yeah, and put out some cherry pie merchandise too. That's not just the album cover. I love some of the bands that have gone back and found their old concert t-shirts and put the same things out. My God, when I would see kids in high school come my freshman year to school with a Warrant shirt that was clearly from when they saw them, and I've never seen some of those again. Even on eBay, you can't find some of that shit, and they were epic looking shirts.
Yeah,
Put
like
that
I
shit.
would love an Uncle, like the Uncle Tom's Cabin, the single had this really cool.
Yeah,
I would love a shirt that was just like that. New, I'm looking all fucking weird. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anyway,
you're going
yeah,
back in time.
fuck. So yeah, fans, there are fans out there like us who will buy fucking almost anything Warrant related. So give the fans what they want.
Exactly. I'm there with you, brother.
All right. Hey, let us know in the comments, your memory of cherry pie and what it meant to you. It meant a lot to us. Patrick, thanks for coming on to talk about one of the most iconic albums in rock history.
Yeah, and I'll echo what Anthony just said. It's such a good time to read the comments when people put their own story about how this record came into your life. It's really cool to read that stuff, and I guarantee you somebody from the band eventually will see that shit and read it, and that's cool for me. So
Yeah. All right. Hey, like, subscribe, what the hell, ring the bell. And hey, whatever you can do to support the channel. Truly, we appreciate you being here. Until the next video comes up, my name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care of yourselves.